So far we have discussed about the steady state of the Solow model. We've talked about the assumptions of the Solow model, and we've discussed how in a Solow model, whether you begin from a point below the steady stock of capital per capita, or you begin from a point where your current capital per capita is above the steady state stock, you finally end up reaching this point. We looked at these two graphs in the previous class, and we saw how no matter where you begin from, you end up reaching at these points, which is called as the steady state of capital per capita. Today, we are going to look at how to calculate this steady stock, this steady state of capital per capita for a given production function, and what are the different factors which guides the position of capital per capita, of the steady state of capital per capita for a given production function in a given economy. If we go back and revise the main equation of the Solow model, which was this equation, and now try and calculate the formula of steady state of capital per capita from the same equation. Now we know that at the point of steady state of capital per capita, kt plus 1 is equal to kt, because both once you reach the steady state stock, once you are at that point where you have reached the steady state of capital per capita, then in the next time period as well, you will just have the same stock of capital. So kt plus 1 and kt will be equal to k star, and we'll just substitute this in this equation. So instead of kt plus 1, we'll write k star, which is steady, which represents steady state of capital, and instead of kt as well, we will write k star. Once we do that, let's look at the formula that we get. So once we replace k star in the equation, we get this formula just come from here. So in this equation, if you look at this equation, we've just replaced kt plus 1 with k star, kt with k star, and when we assume that k is at k star, then we can also expect small y to be at y star, which is the steady state of output per capita. So solving for this equation, k stars will come on one side. So when you solve the bracket, which is 1 plus n, this bracket will come on the left hand side, and this will become 1 plus n minus 1 plus depreciation plus delta. So in the bracket you will have n plus delta, and on the right hand side you'll have s y star. So you can just again reform this equation, reframe it, and put it in this form. From this equation, we can identify the parameters that affects the steady state stock of capital per capita. So we see that savings rate, which is small s here, is directly proportional to k star, meaning that as s increases, which is that as savings rate increases, steady state of capital will also increase. On the other hand, population growth rate and depreciation rate tends to have an inverse relationship on k star. So with an increase in population growth rate or an increase in the depreciation rate, the steady state of capital per capita will fall. These are the directions of the impact of these parameters on capital per capita is similar to what we had seen in the Harrod model, but we will in a while dwell deeper into the understanding of the effects of these parameters here, and we'll understand how this is different from the Harrod model. So when we talk about the Harrod model, we say that in the Harrod model, the economic growth depends on savings rate and capital output ratio, which means that a higher savings rate indicates a higher growth rate. Whereas in the Solow model, we are saying that higher savings rate indicates high level of steady state stock of capital. We are not really saying that the growth rate is increasing. We are saying that the value or the level of capital per capita, the steady state value of capital per capita will increase. So the difference between the impact of savings rate in the Harrod model and in the Solow model is that of growth effect and level effect. So it's important to point out that the kind of effects that we are really talking about here in the two models are quite different from each other. So if we look at the level and growth effects, it is represented very nicely by this figure 3.5. You have three lines here. One is A, B, C, D, and E. On the y-axis, we have per capita income, log of per capita income, and on the x-axis, we have time. So, if you compare AB with CD, you see that the slope of these two lines is same, and the slope of these two lines represent growth rate, because it would be what, delta per capita income by delta time, and that's nothing but the growth rate of per capita income. So if I compare line AB with line CD, then I can say that the two lines follow the same growth rate, but the level is different. This point point A starts from a different level of per capita income, whereas point C starts from a different level of per capita income. So these two lines differ in terms of levels, but the growth rates are same. Now if I compare line AB with line EF, then I see there is some kind of growth effect. Why? Because there is a change in the slope of this line now. So now AB has a certain slope and EF has a certain different slope. So when I compare line AB and EF, then I say that these two lines are different because the two lines are differentiated by the growth effect. So when we talk about the role of savings rate in the Harrod model, then the role is that of this growth effect. Whereas in the Solow model, this is the kind of effect that's happening. So in other words, we can say that a growth effect is an effect that changes the rate of growth of a variable, typically income or per capita income, whereas a level effect, in contrast, leaves the rate of growth unchanged while shifting up and down the entire path traced out by a variable over time. So it's only the level that's changing, only the absolute value changes, but not the growth effect. If you look at the role of population growth rate in the Solow model, then the population growth rate has an interesting double effect on the Solow model. On one hand, higher population growth rate lowers the steady state level of per capita income, which we just saw that the population growth rate and the depreciation rate comes in the denominator. So they have an inverse relationship on the level of steady state of capital per capita. But at the same time, a higher population growth rate will increase the growth rate of the total income. So the population growth rate in this case has two kinds of effects. One that lowers the steady state level of capital, and the other one increases the growth rate of the total income. But remember that we are talking about the growth rate of total income and not per capita. Then I can say that capital Y will grow at the rate of population growth rate, meaning that from this we can say that capital Y is nothing but product of Y and P, and we are saying that in the Solow model, small y is not growing. There is no long run growth rate in small y, but there is some growth rate in population. So y will basically capital Y will increase at the rate of the population growth rate. So we are saying that on one hand, population growth rate has a dampening effect in terms of reducing the level of steady state of capital, whereas on the other hand, it has a boosting effect to the growth rate of the total income. Why does the savings rate in the Solow model doesn't lead to a long run effect is primarily because we say that once you reach the steady state stock of capital, so suppose this is one savings rate and this is the other curve that represents a higher savings rate. So this is S prime and this is S, and I say that S prime is greater than S, and the other parameters stay constant. Now, what would you notice? You would notice that the steady state stock of capital per capita will increase from this point to this point. So in a way, what will happen is that if suppose your economy starts from a point below the previous steady state stock of capital, then the economy will grow in each period, as we had looked at this figure in the last lecture as well. With each passing time period, the capital stock will get added, but it will get added at a decreasing rate because of diminishing returns to factor. Now, if the new steady state of capital per capita increases to K prime, then definitely the growth rates will be higher. But the growth rates will be higher only in the short run, and the short run will be defined for the time it takes the economy to reach point K prime. Once it reaches point K prime, then we don't expect any change in the growth rate of capital per capita or output per capita. So savings in this case is only able to induce a short run but not a long run growth. So the long run effect on income per capita in the solo model is nil. Reason why this is happening in the solo model is because we assume a situation where we are believing that the variables such as capital output ratio um, are endogenous, meaning that the value of the capital output ratio will change with the per capita availability of capital in the economy, which was not really presented in the Harrod model. So as capital stock increases, the contribution of the marginal increase in capital decreases because of the broad assumption in the Solow model that there is diminishing returns to factor, because of which the growth process sort of dampens with each time period and eventually it reaches steady state and then there is further no growth effect. Another very important conclusion from this formula of steady state of capital per capita is that it basically depends on savings rate, population growth rate, and depreciation rate. So regardless of where we start from, suppose you have two economies with similar savings rates, similar depreciation rates, and similar population growth rates, then we can expect that the eventuality of these economies will stop at point K star, which will be common for all these economies because they share the same parameters that affects the capital stock. So if they have the same K star, then we can expect that eventually all these economies will converge at the same point, and this is called as the hypothesis of international convergence, which we will also discuss in detail with the empirical data. But this is one very important highlight of the Solow model, which believes in convergence of economies which look different from each other, but they have, if fundamentally they share the same parameter values, parameters that affect the calculation of steady state stock of capital in the Solow model, such as the savings rate, population growth rate, and the depreciation rate. Right. So if that is the belief we have from the Solow model, then how do we explain the disparities that we see in the world today? How do we explain the differences between the rich and the poor countries? Also, does the Solow model predict that there is finally no per capita growth rate? Does the Solow model say that the long run growth rate can only be witnessed in capital Y and that will be equal to the population growth rate? So, are we saying that the small y, which is which is output per capita, there is no factor that can affect the long run growth rate of this variable? Is that what the Solow model predicts? These are questions that we have from the discussion that we have conducted so far, and let's look at another further sections of this chapter to understand the factors which explain the growth rate in the per capita output value in the Solow model, and that's called as the technical progress. Technical progress is now being introduced in the solo model, and a more appropriate statement to conclude the results of the solo model so far would now be can now be captured in the following statement. Absence of technical progress, a country cannot sustain per capita income growth rate indefinitely. This is a more appropriate way to summarize the solo model so far, which is saying that in the absence of technical progress, according to the solo model, a country cannot sustain a consistent and indefinite growth rate in per capita income, which is small y. So we know that once the economy reaches the level of K star, there will be no growth, no long run growth in this parameter, in this variable, which is per capita income. But this is only happening in the absence of technical progress. What really happens when we introduce technical progress is what this section is going to talk about. So if we ignore technical progress, and if we want to make sure that this variable is growing, we will have to make sure that the rate of growth of capital K is greater than the rate of growth of labor, because this is what it stands for. Small k is nothing but capital K by P. So uh, to make sure that capital K is growing, we'll have to make sure that to make sure that small k is growing, we need to make sure that capital K is growing at a much higher rate than capital P. And when this happens, because of the basic assumption of diminishing returns to factor, when capital stock is growing at a higher rate as compared to population, then the diminishing returns to factor will set in, and the marginal contribution to capital will decrease, and hence the marginal rate of growth of output will also decrease. So we cannot really explain any long run growth in this K star in the absence of technical progress. What really happens when technical progress is introduced? So graphically, what's really happening is an upward shift in the production function. So suppose this is your production function small y, and now imagine that this production function rises in the upward direction indefinitely. Suppose there is some factor that is leading to this change, this upward shift in the production function. So when this happens, what really is happening for the savings function is a similar effect. So savings effect is nothing but small s into small y. So if small y is increasing, it is moving in the upward direction, then we can expect sy to also move in the same direction. And now with this shift in the production function, with this shift in the production function, what's really happening in the solo model is a consistent increase in the K star value. Right? So with the shift in the production function, the K star value is consistently increasing, which is actually inducing a long run growth effect in the K star value. And that's the background effect that's leading to this change in K star value is nothing but the upward shift in the production function. And we believe that this upward shift in the production function will come from this technical progress. So in a way, what we are really saying is that the sources of growth in the solo model are dual. They come from two sources. One is through better and more advanced methods of production, which is technical progress, and that leads to the shift in the production function in the upward direction. And the second is the continued buildup of plants, machineries, and other inputs, which is an increase in the level of K star. And we are really saying that the model says that in the absence of the first source, that is, in the absence of this shift in the production function, the second source, which is increase in the capital stock, is not enough for sustained per capita growth, because when savings rate increase, then there is only a one-time increase in the capital stock, and once you reach the new capital stock, your growth process will stop here. But when the production function is increasing, when there are changes in the technical aspect, when there is technical progress, then the capital stock will also keep on changing, and this will be a long run process. So in the absence of this upward shift in the production function, the second source of growth is not a sustainable source, is what the model is trying to say. Now, what do we really mean by technical progress, and how do we introduce technical progress in the model? So, by technical progress, we definitely mean that there is an improvement in technical know-how of the production function, but we also intend to incorporate other improvements such as increased and better education, more skill development in the economy that will effectively contribute to labor productivity. So we are not really just restricting ourselves to technological improvements in the production process, but also improvements in the overall education level of the economy that will ultimately lead to improvements in the production process. So the next is to understand how do we actually incorporate this technical progress into our equations, into our Solow equations. So far we have been talking about small y, small k, where we said that these are magnitudes per population, per capita, meaning that we had divided the total amount of output or total amount of capital with respect to the total amount of population. Now, by incorporating the definition of technical progress, we are introducing a new concept which is called as effective population, which is defined as follows. So LT is called as effective population, and it is nothing but a product of two terms, PT, which represents the working population in an economy, and ET, which refers to the efficiency or productivity of an individual. Now, this efficiency or productivity of an individual is nothing but technical progress, and that's how we introduce technical progress in the model. We know that PT grows at the rate of n, that's the population growth rate, and now we assume that ET is also growing at some rate pi. This rate pi is nothing but the rate of technical progress. So ET plus 1 will be equal to 1 plus pi into ET. So if you remember, when we had derived the Solow equations in the previous section, we had divided our main equation by PT on both sides. Let me just take you back to that equation, which was a basic capital difference equation. So this was the equation 3.8, and we had derived this equation 3.9 from 3.8, and the method by which we had derived was that we had divided both sides by PT. To incorporate the technical progress into this model, now what we will be changing is that now we are also dividing the two sides by ET. So now we are not just dividing the two sides by PT, but we are dividing them by the product of ET and PT, which is nothing but the effective population. Once you do that, the equation here will change slightly, and we'll see how this equation will change. So on the left hand side, now we'll have two growth rates. One will be 1 plus n as before, and then other one will be 1 plus pi. You will also notice that now you don't have small k t plus 1, but you have k hat t plus 1. On the right hand side as well, you have k hat t and y hat t. These k hat and y hat represent capital per effective labor, capital per efficiency unit of labor. Y hat represents output per efficiency unit of labor. So now we are transforming these variables into magnitudes per efficiency unit of labor. So this is a change that we have introduced from the previous equation into to this equation. Now, all the other fundamental assumptions of the Solow model are still intact. The interpretation will change slightly. So if you go back to the basic traditional graphs of the Solow model, where you have the right hand side as the curve here and the left hand side is demonstrated as this line, notice that now instead of 1 plus n, you also have 1 plus pi. There's some error here. It's written 1 plus g, but it has to be 1 plus pi. There's some printing error here, so just note that it's not g, it should be pi. Also, you will notice that now these small k are represented in terms of k hat. They are capital stock. The steady stock of capital will be steady stock of capital per efficiency unit of labor. So you have k star by E star into P star. Whereas in the previous example, previous case, we had defined steady stock of capital per capita as K star by P star. So there is a difference in the interpretation of the steady stock of capital here. But other than that, the basic idea stays the same, that you still see diminishing returns to factor, but now the diminishing returns to factor here are occurring with respect to the efficiency unit of labor and not just the unit of labor. So when we say that K increases relative to efficiency labor, now we are not saying that K is greater than P. We are saying K is greater than the product of E into P, which is that the relative amount of capital with respect to the efficiency unit of labor is increasing. And when that happens, when capital per efficiency unit of labor increases, then there will be diminishing returns to factor, and which will eventually lead us to a steady stock of capital per efficiency unit of labor, which is represented by this ratio. So the basic assumption of diminishing returns to factor in the Solow model is still intact. The only thing that's changing is the interpretation of the steady state stock of capital per efficiency unit of labor. So now basically the physical capital is growing faster than the rate of population growth and technical progress combined. So we are saying that capital is growing faster than the rate of technical progress as well as the population growth rate. Now, once you reach the steady state level, what's really happening is that there is no growth in this ratio. In the previous model, we saw that once you reach the steady state stock of capital, there will be no growth in small k. But now, if we only look at small k, then we can expect some changes, some growth rate in the value of small k, even when you reach the steady state of capital per efficiency unit of labor. Because now, if you look at this value, we say that there is no growth rate. The growth rate of this variable is 0. But if I had to look at the growth rate of capital per capita alone, so suppose I only want to look at the growth rate of K by P, then I know that this is growing at the rate of growth of E, which is technical progress. So if I have to single out the growth rate of capital per capita here, then I know from this reformulation, I can say that the growth rate is equal to the growth rate of efficiency, which is nothing but technical progress. So by changing this model, by incorporating the effect of technical progress into the model, we have induced a long run growth in the capital per capita value. And so if capital per capita is growing at the rate of technical progress, then we can also expect output per capita to grow at the same rate. So the interpretation here is that the steady state stock of capital per efficiency unit of labor will face no long run growth rate, but capital per capita will witness a change in the growth rate, which will be now represented by pi. The growth rate of total output, which was earlier equal to the growth rate of population, will now increase and it will become n plus pi. So now the growth rate of output, which is the absolute level of output, not the small y but the capital Y, which was earlier only growing at the rate of population growth rate, will now grow at the combined growth of the population as well as the technical progress. So basically the growth rate of effective labor will be equal to the growth rate of total output. So this is how the results will change when we introduce technical progress into the Solow model.